We are allowed to take control of our own country. We're allowed to say, no, you're not going to Islamicize our cities. No, you're not going to do that. This is America. Okay, I want to actually go back to Dearborn for a moment. Because as we talked about Dearborn a little bit on the show recently, and I've been aware of the Islamicization of Dearborn, I hadn't really looked into it that deeply. But the more you look into it, and the more research you do about what's happening in Dearborn, it is insane. I mean, it is mind-blowing. I think people don't realize, however bad you think it is, it's so much worse. And if you live there, you know this, but for people that don't live there, you might not understand just how bad it is. That Dearborn has essentially become an Arab state. It's a Middle Eastern Islamic capital right in the middle of the American heartland. And for some reason, we've allowed that to happen. We don't have to allow it. We don't have to allow that, actually. We are allowed to not allow that. But we did. And now the people of the city, along with, here's the latest thing, along with all the other problems with living in a Middle Eastern Islamic capital, the latest, and this is just from this week, the people of the city find themselves woken up at 5 a.m. by the Muslim call to prayer. Watch this.
But the mosques in East Dearborn are now at times waking us up at 5:30 in the morning with the call to prayer.
This is Dearborn resident Andrea Unger at last night's city council meeting stating that mosques using outdoor loudspeakers for their call to prayer should not be allowed. And says she believes it's not supposed to be allowed per city ordinance.
The noise complaints have been made out and the police have made numerous visits. What is the next step?
There was some question whether or not any outdoor loudspeakers are allowed, something that was not clarified, only that more evidence is being gathered. But CBS Detroit did examine Dearborn's noise ordinance and found that loudspeakers between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. are in violation of the ordinance.
So that is the sound you get to hear if you live in a city in Michigan. That's the sound. And I was talking about this on X and somebody said, I saw a few comments that said, well, what about church? What about church bell? You got a problem with that, with the Muslim call to prayer over the loudspeaker? But what about church bells? You got an issue? Well, what's the difference? Well, I'll tell you the difference. Number one, church bells are much more beautiful. Number two, church bells don't ring at 5 a.m. And number three, America is a Christian country. Okay, at its core, at its root, philosophically, historically, America is a Christian country. And so there is a distinct difference between being in being in an American city and hearing a church bell is normal. It's good. It's traditional. It's what you expect. Hearing that sound over a loudspeaker coming from a mosque is not normal. It's not traditional. It's not American. It's just not. And now the city council president apparently conceded that the call to prayer, the level that is being blasted over a loudspeaker is a violation of noise ordinances in the city, in particular doing it at 5 a.m. But so far, as I know, nothing's been done about it. They're just kind of shrugging it off. And there's no surprise about it. No surprise about that. Remember, we just talked about a guy showed up at a council meeting to object to the fact that they're renaming streets after, some Muslim guy. And the mayor, Abdullah Hammud, yelled at the guy for complaining and told him he's not welcome in Dearborn. So that's how things are going in Dearborn. Now, here's an update on that story from the New York Post. There is an update on that. At Dearborn, Michigan's first city council meeting since his clash with a local Christian minister went viral after heat exchange over a controversial honorary street sign naming Mayor Abdullah Hammud declined to apologize for his saying the minister was not welcome here and that he would launch a parade when he left town. It's kind of a rough paragraph. That was not a well-written, and also I just can't read. So we got, speaking of low IQ, we got two problems. We have two problems colliding right now. Anyway, Ted Barham, the same Christian minister, opened his remarks at Tuesday meeting by repeating the words that went viral at the previous one on September 9th. Barham said, "The mayor, in a way, cursed me, as was seen around the world, and I would like to repeat what I said that day to you, Mr. Mayor. God bless you." Barham said he had no plans to file a lawsuit despite pressure from supporters. "People have been saying I should do that all over the world. I have no intention of doing that, of filing a lawsuit." Instead, he urged the council to consider his larger message. Bless those who curse you. Love your haters. And I would say that in regard to Hezbollah as well. I would say that in regard to Mr. Sublani. And I would say to Israel too. Love your haters. Okay. And somebody else got up. "We love you with the love of Christ. We want the blessings of God to be in your life. It's not a matter of us versus them." And then this was someone else speaking and said, "Do you definitively," but asked the mayor, do you definitively, unequivocally, by name, denounce Hamas and Hezbollah, or do you support them?" So the Christian citizens in the city are being very forgiving and nice about it, which is unfortunate and inappropriate, actually, and shameful. There is nothing in the Christian faith that requires you to be a pushover. Quite the opposite. The Christian faith is a warrior faith. Put on the armor of God. It's a warrior faith. And that does not mean that we be pushovers. There is nothing that requires you to be a weak, limp-wristed wimp. And this is what I wish Christians in this country would understand. And so many do not, after years of going to these effeminate liberal churches. And they hear things like turn the other cheek. Okay, turn the other cheek, okay, was not an invitation or a command for you to be a wuss. It's not an excuse to be a coward. And turn the other cheek only ever applies to insults against you personally. That's the only time when we should ever be talking about turn the other cheek. It does not apply to offenses against your family, against your friends, against your country, against your faith. You should not be turning the other cheek in those cases. Turning the other cheek in those cases is not turning the other cheek, it's turning your back. Okay, Jesus said turn the other cheek. He didn't say turn your back on the people who you're supposed to be loyal to, on your principles, on your values, on your faith, on your family. Didn't say that. That's betrayal. And in this case, if you're a Christian in Dearborn, all of those things are under attack. Your country's under attack. Your faith, your friends, your family are all being attacked and insulted and degraded. When the mayor of Dearborn said to that Christian pastor, "You're not welcome here," he wasn't. Okay, it's fine if the pastor wants to say, "Well, I personally am not going to take offense to that." Fine. He wasn't just talking to you though, pastor. He was talking to every Christian in your community. That's what he was saying. Okay, he was saying Christians are not welcome here. And so getting up there and just saying, "Well, God bless you, I love you," that's not a good enough response. It's not good enough. You should be righteously angry about it. And you should sue him. That's justice. That is you defending your faith, defending your country. It is an attack not just on you individually, but on your faith, your country, your family. So no, you don't just forgive him and move on. You should sue. You should fight back. He can't say that to you. He can't. The mayor of the town cannot get up there. You, as an American, as a American Christian citizen, how dare he? You get up there and say that like you don't want your street names named after this like Muslim guy. Okay, this is not even putting aside he supports Hamas and Hezbollah. That is almost irrelevant. Okay, he's not an American hero. No, we're not going to have Omar Sablani Street in America. We're not going to have it, and you have every right to say that. And so, how dare he stand up there and say you're not welcome here? He has no right to say that to you. As a public servant, he has no right to say that to you. And so I really get tired of this kind of response. Oh, well, you know, I'm going to be the bigger man. Oh, give me a break. Now, at a certain point, like being the bigger man is not, at a certain point, you got to get down in the mud and have this fight, okay? At a certain point, you got to get down in the mud and have the fight. You know, September being National Preparedness Month got me thinking, when I'm out on the trails with my family, I'm always prepared, extra water, checking the weather, the whole deal. That mindset should carry over to home preparedness too. If a storm knocked out power for a week tomorrow, how ready would most families really be? The reality is, a lot of people have maybe 3 days of food that doesn't need refrigeration. That's not the kind of margin any of us want when it comes to our families. That's why My Patriot Supply is making it easy for you to be prepared with their Preparedness Month Mega Kit. They're basically giving away over $1,500 worth of emergency supplies, a full year of emergency food, water filtration system, solar backup generator, and more. Being prepared isn't just smart, it's what we owe our families. And when someone's making it this easy to get started, it feels like it's the right time to finally get serious about all this stuff. So if you go to mypatriotsupply.com/Walsh, you can get 90 preparedness essentials totaling over $1,500 absolutely free. Head to mypatriotsupply.com/Walsh for full details. That's mypatriotsupply.com/Walsh. Now, unsurprisingly, by the way, the mayor did not elect to issue any kind of apology. Why would he? I mean, they're letting him off the hook. So why would he apologize? I mean, when you get up there and say, I forgive you, God bless you, God bless you, but I'd like an apology, mister. Why would he apologize? He had no reason to apologize. Now, maybe if you got up there and say, you know what? I'm going to sue you into the ground. How dare you speak to me that way? I'm an American citizen. You watch your mouth. You don't talk to me that way. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you into bankruptcy. Okay, I'm going to haunt your dreams for the rest of your life. I'm going to come after you. Now, if you say that, maybe you get an apology. And then maybe after you get the apology, maybe you could drop the lawsuit. Maybe you could say, after you've gotten submission from this guy, he submitted to you and apologized and groveled. That's what you should be saying. I want you to you better grovel, not to me, but to all the citizens of this community and this country and all the Christians that you just insulted. You better get down on your knees and grovel and apologize, or I'm going to sue you into the ground. You son of a... Okay? That is how you should respond. But you didn't. So instead he just ignored it. Back to the article. When Hammud spoke later in the evening at the meeting, he did not answer the many calls for an apology. Instead, he said, Dearborn represents the best of America, where people of all backgrounds, of all faiths, and of all beliefs can live peacefully and respectfully as neighbors. Except you just told him to leave. But he gets away with this. And he talked about how we shouldn't be divisive and all this nonsense. With only 2 names on the ballot in the next mayor election, the clash over religious freedom and free speech sparked by Barham's remarks and the mayor's response may become the defining issue for voters. Yes, there is a mayoral election coming up in Dearborn. And by the way, the Republican challenging the incumbent, his name is Abdullah. Well, the incumbent, his name is Abdullah Hammud. The guy challenging him is Naji Almud-Heji. And just so you know, just giving you a little, just to give you the lay of the land in Dearborn. The mayor, his chief of staff, Mayor Abdullah's chief of staff, is named Zainab A. Hussein. The chief of police in Dearborn is Isa Shaheen, and he oversees, of course, the department, and the biggest division is the patrol division, and the guy who's the commander of that is Madhu Bazi. Public health director in Dearborn is Ali Abazid. And there's also, of course, city council members Kamal Aswafi and Mustafa Hammud. Again, just to remind you, this is a city in America. I am not reading from the organizational flowchart of a city in Saudi Arabia. This is the American Midwest. This is the American heartland. A place where you will now be woken up by the Muslim call to prayer at 5:30 in the morning. And then you can get in your car and drive to work down Osama Simblani Lane, to get to your job. The article, the Post article we just read says that this is an issue. This is a clash of religious freedom. But, on the religious freedom point, I agree with the writer Patrick Casey, who posted on X yesterday. He said this: freedom of religion was a noble thing, would it encourage brotherhood between Europeans who spent centuries slaughtering each other over religious differences in the old world. But combined with mass third world immigration, freedom of religion has yielded less noble fruit. Well, that is a very diplomatic and eloquent way of putting it. And the point is just irrefutable, really. Our founding fathers did not have this in mind. They did not have in mind that we'd have American cities run by guys named Hammud. Okay? They just didn't. Who shout down Christian citizens and tell them they aren't welcome. Who name streets after Muslim, figures. Have the Muslim call to prayer blasting through the streets. Where Muslim immigrant population outnumbers the American population. That was never the point. That was never intended. None of our founding fathers or anyone at that time who lived in America could have even conceived of something like this. It wasn't anywhere on their radar screen. Do you know how many Muslims were in the country in 1791 when the Bill of Rights was ratified? You know how many? Like zero? I mean, basically zero. There may have been a small number of Muslims who were here as slaves. If there were any Muslims, they would have been here as slaves. Although, by the way, we didn't have nearly as many Muslim slaves as the Muslims had Christian slaves through the Barbary slave trade at the same time. But anyway, the point is, there were basically no Muslims here at the time, certainly none that were participating in public life at all. So the guys who came up with the idea of religious freedom and codified it into law, they didn't have this in mind. Like that is not a debate. I mean, there's nothing to debate there. I don't need to speculate. It's just a fact. When they were talking about religious liberty, nobody was thinking about this. No one was thinking about what Dearborn is. That possibility, it would have seemed impossible that anything like that would ever happen. They just didn't have Islam in mind at all. They knew what Islam was, obviously. I mean, Thomas Jefferson was at war with Muslims. But, James Madison, when he wrote the First Amendment, this is not what he was thinking about. Religious freedom, as Patrick Casey said, what they were thinking about is peace and unity among the various Christian denominations. That's what the concept was meant for. This is why it's so hard for people these days to understand what was going on. And when we read founding documents and the letters and things that founding fathers were writing, what people don't get is that this was a conversation happening among Christians. And that was always just the base level assumption, is that all of this, we're talking about Christians. And there just weren't anyone else here. No one else was here. The idea that Islamic migrants would be imported en masse was, again, not on the radar. Wasn't considered. What's happened in Dearborn, none of the founders of our country ever remotely considered that possibility, and if they had considered it, they would not have approved. Religious freedom was supposed to allow Christians to live peaceably among each other, and now it's being used as a cudgel against us, as a Trojan horse to turn our communities into Pakistan. We don't have to allow this. Our founding fathers certainly would not have allowed it. We should not allow it. This is our country. We are allowed to take control of our own country. We're allowed to say, no, you're not going to Islamicize our cities. No, you're not going to do that. This is America. That's the Middle East. We don't want America to be the Middle East. I think we're pretty well justified in not wanting that. I think we can look over there and say, you know what? We don't really want that. We don't want any part of that. We don't want any part of that at all. We're allowed to think that. We'd be crazy not to. And we're allowed to take steps to make sure that it happens. America is not a Muslim country. If it ever became a Muslim country, it would no longer be America. That doesn't mean that Muslims can't live here. That's not what anyone is saying. What it does mean is that you need to assimilate into our culture rather than erasing our culture and supplanting it with yours. That's what it means. Which is the same expectation that every other country on the planet has. It's certainly the expectation that every single Muslim country has for any of the people that they allow in, which aren't many. And you notice that at this point, Muslims account for a huge disproportionate number of migrants generally, and especially ones coming from overseas, most specifically. But they come here. You know, they don't. That's the weird thing, is you have this mass Muslim immigration, and almost all of it comes here or to the UK, Western Europe. They don't go to other Muslim countries. That's weird, isn't it? One of the reasons for that is that these other Muslim countries are not, they're just not very welcoming of outsiders. And if they do bring you in, and that's to put it mildly, but if they do bring you in, yeah, you're going to assimilate to this is our country, this is our culture. We'll invite you in. Maybe if we do, you need to assimilate to us. Okay, it's the same expectation you have if you let somebody into your house. If you let them over for dinner, you invite them over for dinner. The assumption is that, okay, this is my house. I'll let you in. I'll invite you in. These are my rules. I have my way of doing things. If you don't like it that way, then don't come. This is the problem with the people, even conservatives, who still go around claiming that, America is an idea. It's just an idea. And when I ask, what is an American? They say, well, it's a citizen who believes in the Constitution and freedom and democracy. That's kind of the answer you get. Well, that can't be the answer. It can't be just that. Why? Well, because of Dearborn. Because a city in Michigan has been converted into an Islamic capital, and a city in Minnesota has been converted into Mogadishu, and many other cases just like it all across the country. These people who are doing this, they're legal citizens for the most part. The Somalis in Minnesota, the Muslims in Michigan. Legal citizens. And also they will say, if you ask them, that they do love the Constitution, and they do love democracy, and they do love freedom. And who's to say they don't? I mean, all that stuff allowed them to come here and turn our communities into third world enclaves, so I'm sure they do love it. I believe them. So does that make them American, and that's just the end of the discussion? If the entire country resembles Dearborn 50 years from now, is America still America? I mean, that really is the question. And I'm not even saying necessarily that the entire country will resemble Dearborn in 50 years, although maybe it will. Or maybe it takes 75 years. But this is the question that kind of, has you thinking about it makes the point, right? That if America did become Dearborn, and these are all legal citizens, and they all love the Constitution, is America still America? Obviously not. Obviously, that's not what America is supposed to be. And I get it. The whole America is an idea thing, I used to say that stuff too. I'll admit that. Go back 8 or 9 years, and you can hear me repeating the same kind of cringe nonsense. I think it's embarrassing now. But I did say it. I believed it at the time. But it isn't true. And I understand that it feels a bit jarring to give up on that line, to admit that America is more than an idea, and more than just a geographic area, and more than an economic zone. It's jarring because it brings with it all kinds of implications that you'd rather not have to deal with. But the implications are here, whether you want to deal with them or not. Just ask yourself and be honest. Look at Dearborn. Is that America? Is that what America is supposed to be? Is that what you want America to be? If 100 more American cities turn into Dearborn, if 500, 1,000, is that okay? Is it okay with you? If you have children, do you want them to grow up in Dearborn. No. No, you don't. And you shouldn't want that. And we are allowed to take steps to prevent that. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.